Good evening. I'm Patsy Swank. Miss Edith Head might be characterized as a working legend. She is probably one of the busiest costume designers that Hollywood has ever known. Besides that, she loves motion pictures, and she's in Dallas because the Benson and Hedges series of 100 greatest films are now being shown here. And 3 of the films that she costumed happen to be included among those 100. Edith Head was obviously a child bride to the great God film. She worked on her first picture in 1925, and her next one is just about to start. It's being produced by Alfred Hitchcock. If you look in any list of film credits for the designers of the golden Hollywood years, Edith Head's list will top them all by about a column and a half. The reason for that, I think, is pretty obvious. Edith Head is a superb designer. She would have been a success wherever she had chosen to work. That being the case, Miss Head, what was it about film that engaged you and that kept you?
Actually, you know, I'm an ex-school teacher. And I have a theory that once you've taught school, you can do anything. But, you know, years ago, school teachers didn't make a large salary. And come summer vacation, we had to get a job. There was an advertisement in the paper that Paramount Studio needed a sketch artist. I could draw a bit. So I went to the studio, became a sketch artist, fell in love with the make-believe of pictures, and never went back to teaching.
But an awful lot of your contemporaries have come and gone, and they've been fine designers too. But you're still here, and you're still working, and you're still productive. What is it about you, or your job, or the business that has kept you all together?
You mean why I've survived so long?
Well, if you want to put it that way, yes, I think that's a
No, I think I have
credit.
a philosophy that is different. In other words, assuming you're a motion picture star, and when you come to an average designer, they will say, here is a sketch. Now, here's a sketch, and so forth and so on, and you're going to wear it. Now, with me, I would do 3 sketches. I would say, this sketch will make you look very glamorous. This sketch is much more intellectual. This 3rd sketch has drama. Now, which you, as an actress, which will enable you to play the part in the film you're doing? So, in other words, I work with people, not for them, and I think that that's why people like to work with me. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
It's the fact that I feel it's very important to get the point of view of other people rather than saying, this is what I like, I hope you like it.
What happens when you never can come together and you know that what they want is not
I do 3 more. No, because, see, don't forget, we expect the public to take the same star and every time they see a picture believe they're a certain person.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 3 magicians, hair, makeup, and clothes. And through the 3 of us, we translate people, men, women, children, into characters, and we ask you, the public, to believe that they are not themselves. So obviously, I'm not trying to please you as an actress. I am trying to help you be what you aren't. And most actresses are intelligent enough, at least the ones with whom I've worked, they're intelligent enough to realize I'm helping them, not trying to, you know, talk them into something.
What are the other factors? The actresses certainly aren't the only ones. Do you have to deal with producers? Do you, what?
You know, so many people say, isn't it lovely being a studio designer? You do beautiful clothes, whatever you want. You don't. You see, I have a script first, and the script says, for example, Grace Kelly is a beautiful heiress, you know, in To Catch a Thief. She has lovely clothes. The next picture could be Grace Kelly in Country Girl, who's a middle-aged, very frumpy, very unattractive, you know, middle-aged woman. So, in other words, I do not actually design what I want. I follow the script. And then I have to show it to the director, the producer. You show it to the cameraman. You show it to the art director to see I don't do a gray suit and a gray set. You also show it to the man who designs the decor for the set. And last of all, we have something horrible called a budget. So by the time you will have satisfied all those, it is not just what I want to do. It is how I can correlate with these other departments and still achieve what I would like to.
How much does the technical side of it bear on what you do? That is, do you have pretty intensive sessions with the director, with the cinematographer, the lighting?
No, it depends. Now, for instance, with Hitchcock, when you will have read a Hitchcock script, you know what you're doing. Other scripts just say she wears a dress. That means you'll have to have meetings. And it means you do have to have meetings. You have to discuss things with the person who wears the costume. The others are not, for instance, I can talk, let's say, to a cameraman. They're very important. And he could say, Edith, can you possibly not give me a white dress? It's a garden scene, and the moonlight is going to be very difficult. Can you do it off-white or a pastel? You see, that's what you call cooperation. Not that they are saying I can't do it, but it will be easier.
Does that ever affect the line or the fabric as well?
No, because I mean, whether I make a dress in pink or blue really isn't that important. It's just actually, in other words, when I will have designed a dress, I realize it is subject to change even then.
So it's never set. It's never set till the picture's
I don't
cut.
think most people realize the difference between costume designing and fashion, because in fashion design, I would design what I as a designer want. As a costume designer, I design what I have to do because of the script.
Well,
It's a terrific difference, you know.
Where does style come in here? Because that's the third word in that triumvirate.
Style may not enter at all. I can get a script where style doesn't mean anything.
But you have a style.
I do
There's
if I
Edith Head
have a
style.
contemporary picture. But when you do a period picture, I just finished Little Women. That has great style and beauty, but I didn't originate the hoop skirt. So you see, actually, I can't say that it's an Edith Head original.
Well, let's talk about some Edith Head originals. Here, for instance, is a rendering of a dress that you did for
A
KERA
very famous
Lombard.
Lombard years ago.
Years ago.
And that also became a symbol of what we call the Lombard look. The lovely bias dress. It could almost be worn today without the train. The separate scarf that came off and did a shawl and the over tunic. But don't forget, now this was in a period where we could use any color we wanted. We didn't have to worry. It was
black and white
It was before
films, yeah.
color came into the picture. But I'll tell you, can we go a little further? Let's go to one of the pictures that I'm interested in now on this tour, which is all about Eve.
No.
The script says, now this is a sequence. The script says she comes rustling down the staircase. Well, that obviously means that I can use a taffeta, a gros de Londres, or a crisp material, which usually I can't use because they don't like noise. Also, she comes down with her hands in her pockets. Obviously, I'm going to use pockets.
You got a pocket.
It says she pushes up her sleeves every so often and lights a cigarette. Obviously, I'm going to do, you know, short sleeves. So actually, the whole dress is motivated on the story. So that's what I mean by saying, and I think this is a very important subject to bring up, that what I have to do is interpret a script and make it come to life.
But that doesn't limit you. That never has limited you. What other people would consider their limitations simply seem to sharpen what you come up with.
Well, that doesn't mean that I didn't do beautiful clothes. I think I got an Academy Award. I think it's an extraordinary picture from a costume point of view. But if I had not had a script, I might have done something different. In other words, it's a guideline. And this happens to theater, to television, to pictures. Any form of visual art is motivated by a story.
Well, take for example another one of your Academy Award winners. I think was Samson and Delilah. You did elaborate and beautiful costumes for Hedy Lamarr in that film. How do you arrive at those? That's historical in one sense.
Well, of course, that is one of the saddest things to tell you. Do you want to hear a sad story?
Yes.
Well, years ago, we had something called censorship, which censorship says that you cannot show a bosom. You cannot show a lady's navel. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, in Samson and Delilah, you could not show Hedy Lamarr's navel, but you could show Samson's navel. And no one has ever explained to me why a male navel is not censorable and a female one is. But anyhow, that's what happened. But the thing is, what we did a great deal of research, And then we would have to change. We would have to cover up things, and it ended up by being a much more covered costume than the original things. Now today, we have less censorship. We have more reality. If I were to do Samson and Delilah today, I would probably do very accurate Egyptian costumes. Or well, was it Egyptian, Samson and Delilah? No.
Oh well, it's Middle Eastern somewhere, and not but it's over in that whole area where the same things would prevail. But then for the heiress, you could do an extreme. Of course, that everybody was covered up in the heiress.
Well, also in the heiress, don't forget, it's a period about which a great deal has been written, and there still is a great deal of authentic material around. Actually, Willie Wyler was such a perfectionist that he sent me east to go to 2 or 3 galleries to get a real corset. Do you know what a real corset looks like?
I don't know that I could describe it, but it had bones,
but
as I recall.
the real corset changed, you see. In one period, it had bones here, and another it had there. So he wanted one for the scene in the bedroom, and we had to copy authentic petticoats, in other words, it could have been a real representation of a real thing. But that's what's exciting about pictures. I don't think the public realizes that today everything we do is so academically perfect that it's as close to the real thing as you could possibly. And you know, that's why I'm so pleased to be here in Dallas, because I understand Dallas is interested in seeing famous pictures, and it's fun to talk about them. It's nostalgic, and I think the taste of the public is so superb nowadays.
Well, I think that's true. I think Dallas also has some reputation as a market center and as a style center, and perhaps is more sensitive to some of those aspects. Perhaps, I don't know whether that's a chauvinistic remark or not.
Well, I find Dallas very receptive to contemporary design. I designed for Vogue Patterns, and I did a lovely fashion show here at the wonderful Dallas, I think it's the Dallas Women's Club, fantastic place. And we showed all the great costumes of the past. And then I showed the contemporary patterns, which were more or less influenced by the great clothes of the past.
Why aren't you in the couture business?
Because I'd rather be in the pattern business. If I were in the couture business, I would have to build dozens of clothes and worry about whether they sold or not. You know, it's a precarious thing. And also, I like doing patterns better. You know, the camera doesn't lie. And I can make anybody look fatter or thinner, younger, taller, anything I want, because I've learned over the years that the clothes really are magic. So when I do the Vogue patterns, I do them with the point of view, not will a woman have a pretty dress, but will a woman herself look better. It's fun. I feel a little like a doctor. You know, years ago I did a picture called The Dress Doctor, and I commence every so often to feel a little medical when I say, lady, you're kind of big below. You know, there are 3 major faults. You know, one of the greatest things that happens as you get older, a woman can get top heavy, bottom heavy, or heavy all over. Did you know that?
Yes, I know.
You've heard of that?
Yes, I have heard of that.
And if you wear the right pattern, you can disguise them. It's camouflage, truly.
Well, what do you do when, for instance, you're making a picture? I know about costume pictures, and I know that presents a certain kind of problem. But I've seen a lot of pictures lately dealing with clothes of the 40s and clothes of the 50s. And they are accurate, as nearly as I can tell from the table. They don't look like the clothes I wore in the 40s and the clothes I wore in the 50s.
You know why?
How do you change the eye?
No, I think that we have a tendency, in every period, there are good clothes, bad clothes, and medium clothes. And I think that the designers, when we design a period film, try to take the best of the design and skip the horrors, because every period does have ugly clothes. And so, in other words, the choice between a shoulder that looks like a football player or a medium shoulder, we're apt not to pick the more extreme, which is the safest thing to do. But you know, every picture, I just finished doing Little Women for the 3rd time. With lovely,
for the 3rd time?
Uh-huh.
How wonderful.
With lovely Greer Garson, who is incredibly beautiful. She plays the wealthy aunt and looks incredibly handsome. And so, that's the sort of thing that makes up for the things that aren't pleasant. And then you do pictures where you have, I just finished doing one for Elizabeth Taylor where she plays a middle-aged school teacher, you know, just plain vanilla clothes. So everything you have is a different language.
Is there anything different, do you feel, in the way we look back at what happened? what is different in the present eye? Does that affect the way we remember, or does our memory affect the way the clothes
Well,
look to us?
I think what has happened, we have always, until the last few years, had a certain amount of regulation. In other words, we wore certain clothes to places of worship. We wore certain clothes at the beach. We wore certain clothes morning, noon, and night. Today, I just think you throw anything on and go any place you want, which is very unfortunate, because I don't think we'll ever go back to regulations again. I don't think we can. I think a lot of people have to go from places of work when they go out and things of that sort. But I think this one dress for all thing is a cruel, unkind thing. I think that fashion today has two things. It has the ugliest fashion that has ever been designed, and still some of the best. We have some American designers, I think, who do fantastic clothes.
Can you say which ones you like?
Well, I think for just general sport clothes, Calvin Klein does fantastic clothes. My favorite designer is Oscar de la Renta. Don't you like his shirt?
Yes, I do like his shirt.
I think he's a great designer.
I like his clothes too.
So you see, we have great designers here. However, we get so much freak design. Like, I saw one in the paper the other day, you're supposed to look like one of Hitler's main officers with great shoulders. Well, why? Is there any reason why, in this day and age, we should have padded shoulders? We're in a period of freedom and comfort. And believe me, they are not that comfortable.
Well, doesn't that go back to the whole sense of fashion control, which traditionally for so many years was out of France, has spread to some degree, but skirt lengths always go up, go down, go out, go in. What does control this? Do you know?
Well, I think the whole point is an economic reason. I think that stores want to sell clothes. I think designers want to make money. The way to do it is to hit a headline and say, this is it, this is the great fad. If a thing gets enough exposure and enough publicity, people will buy it. And unfortunately, nowadays, you have to do something pretty unusual to get headlines. If you do something bad enough, believe me, people will buy it if it gets enough exposure. However, I've just been talking to some people here on the newspapers and saw some of the new things. There's some perfectly beautiful, perfectly normal, lovely clothes coming in. So you have to make up your mind, are you going to be a freak or aren't you? How do you feel about it?
Well, I try not to be a freak, I'll put it that way. But doesn't that go back to some of the elements that we were talking about before? The suit that you have on, for instance.
It's an old suit.
I have no idea whether it's an old suit or whether it came out of this year's collection. No, it will be just as good in 15 years.
No, this is 12, 13 years old, and I wore it deliberately.
Does that have anything to do with the reason for the freakiness that
No, it's just that I happen to like some of my old clothes better than the new clothes.
But isn't that, what I'm saying is, isn't that the reason for the freakiness? If all of us could wear all of our clothes and love them for 10 or 15 years.
Yes, but you notice I didn't keep any football shoulders in my collection.
No football shoulders that I've noticed.
But there is fashion that is good this year. There's fashion that is unkind. And going back to my patterns, I try to do normalcy of clothes. Naturally, I do glamour clothes, beautiful clothes, not just everyday clothes, because I represent a glamour industry. But everything I do is made so it can be worn day or night. For instance, a suit which will have a long skirt, short skirt, and a pair of pants along with a top. Because I think people who sew should get a lot of mileage out of their clothes. But nobody is going to change fashion. There's no act of Congress or the world that's going to tell women what to wear. It's going to be fun if we ever go in uniform.
Well, we did once, sort of, during World War II. But what about that whole clothing revolution of the 60s, of the young people?
Wasn't it horrible? That was the color.
Well, it was troublesome in a way. I think to those of us who were used to thinking about clothes in a certain way, and I don't think they think about clothes that way. But the taste still came out. I mean, there were blue jeans and blue jeans, and there were T-shirts and T-shirts.
I think the 60s is the all-time low in fashion in America. I'll tell you, so much was motivated by you can wear anything, anytime, any place. In other words, if you preferred not to wash your hair, you were much more chic. If you bought some old dirty thing at a second-hand store, that was just lovely. In other words, it was fun and amusing for the kids to do it. But when the older people got to that look, then I thought it was rather pathetic.
Yes, it really was it was a movement of the young. It was a kind of a rebellion. Did you feel
I didn't hold it against the young people. I thought if they wanted to look like freaks, let them. But when you saw older freaks, I think freaks should stop at the age of 25, don't you?
Well, that's when they start being freaks, I guess, and stop being younger people. What I was going to ask you, though, was if that concerned you at the time.
Of the 60s?
Yes, because I cannot remember anything as profound as that approach to clothes. I had a feeling of all sense of clothes as a celebration of place or celebration of event going by the board. I don't think it happened. But,
well, as it affected me, I ignored it. I did no hippie clothes, unless I got a picture with hippies, and then I really out-hippied them. But I just felt that it was a phase. I thought it was a fantasy. You can't criticize a thing like this. I don't feel an adult like myself has any right to criticize any movement of the young people, because I think they have a terrific influence on fashion. What I resent is the older people following it.
as they nearly always do.
You know, there is a time and age where really women shouldn't wear tight blue jeans.
It comes very early.
Shaped like that. By the way, I think blue jeans are going to be here forever.
Well, there's some things that come out of every fashion revolt that seem to stick around.
You know, that's our earliest fashion in America, the blue jeans.
The jeans?
Sure.
I didn't realize it.
Sure, way
But
back.
not for women, was it?
Well, no, but I mean the blue jeans, the blue denims originated in, you know, the gold rush. So America's first contribution to fashion was the blue jeans, and I prophesy it'll be the last one. We'll never give it up. I love them. I look wonderful in them, but I don't wear them out when I work. I think there's a place for everything.
Well, one of your Academy Awards was for the Sting, for the men's clothes. Have you always designed for men?
I did more men than women, actually, when I started. I've dressed nearly every male actor. Cary Grant, all of them.
What, well, if I say what's the difference, I'm sure to get a smart answer,
No, I
not
won't.
from you, but from somebody. But, I mean,
What's the difference between men
in
and women?
approach. No, I know that. What's the difference in approach to
All goes back
the
to
way
your
you work.
script. In other words, in the script, the men were prevalent. They were both stars. And it said that they were not gangsters, but crooks of that period. And so I did a lot of research and did accurate clothes. They were not original. I didn't invent the clothes of that period. But with two handsome men like that, it was a joy to work with them. But working with the man in anything, whether it's contemporary or period, it's much easier because men have no hang-ups. The average woman, by the time she's an adult, has certain fixed ideas of certain colors she likes, certain necklines she likes, certain fabrics. The average male, frankly, is not that particular. They may say, I don't like this or that. But as a rule, a man will look at a sketch and say, fine. The average woman will say, oh, Edith, it's lovely. Can I have pink instead of blue or a different neckline? Because it's a female prerogative.
Well, all of these years that you have been designing for the men, it seems to me that the real sort of turnover in men's clothes has been within the last 5 or 10 years. Were you always doing what you felt to be basically the same thing for the men?
Well, I have been always very much motivated by the British look, because I think that over the years, if you had to say, do I like the French influence, the Italian influence, I would say the British influence has been more consistent with America's lifestyle and the way we live. You know what I'm trying to bring back for men?
What?
Kilts.
Ooh, when did they leave?
Well, I don't think they've ever hit America. No, but I saw a picture the other night of a Scotch regiment, and their kilts were swinging, and I thought how fabulous they looked. Come to think of it, I have never seen an American man. I mean, I've seen, you know, on stage and things, but I've never been with a man in kilts. Have you?
I have seen them, but not in America.
Have you ever danced with one?
No, I've never danced with a man in kilts, but it must be.
Shall we bring them back?
Oh,
Do you know, coming in to Texas yesterday, I saw more men in long, very, very short shorts than I've ever seen in my life.
Lots of
I've never seen so many
shorts.
men's legs in my life.
I think the women probably would resent it. The women cannot wear kilts. The Scots women can only wear the shawl throw.
Well, that I didn't know. Is that true?
I think so. I think so. I've got a lot of Scots
What do they wear,
forebears.
skirts?
They have to wear whatever they're going to wear, but they simply wear
Can
the
wear the-
plaid. Yeah, but it's the kilt is like
Masculine.
trousers used to be for women. It is absolutely a man's garment entirely.
No, being quite serious, I don't think that ever in our lifetime we're going to see a drastic change in men's clothing.
Why not?
Well, we may see difference in the width of lapel, difference in widths of tie, whether they will wear vests or whether they won't wear vests. But men, I think men are not going to be easily pushed into any freaks. Men are much more sensible than women when you come to fashion.
Why do you suppose that is?
Because they're stubborn. And I don't think, for example, suppose this is your morning paper here.
All right.
And on the front it says, fantastic new outfit for men with one leg. Or kilts or something, ridiculous. Men wouldn't go buy it. But if it were something ridiculous, a woman would say, I think I'll go try it on.
That's interesting.
Men are very cautious. Didn't you know that about clothes?
Well, I have suspected it for many, many years.
But I do think, I've been noticing, particularly the men, I'm dressing so many pictures with men nowadays, and I noticed how comfortable and relaxed the men here look. Of course, it's hot weather, and that's the reason, but they all look so, casual and not freaky.
What about fabrics? How much have you been affected by the synthetic fabrics?
I don't use it unless there's a reason to do it. Actually, I find out that most clothes make up better for my use in the real fabrics, cotton, linen,
wool,
silk.
And you don't have the problem of maintenance, presumably?
No. However, for travel and certain things, I think synthetics are wonderful because they don't muss, and they don't show wear.
What do you like for yourself?
For myself? Well, I am my own favorite guinea pig. I make things up for me, and if they're terrible, nobody ever sees them. So you see. So anyway, that is my wish for Dallas, that everybody gets the kind of clothes that makes them look their very best. People today, on the whole, have the power of choice, because it isn't a case of years ago when only people with money could buy clothes, because even the most expensive clothes are sold off in there are all kinds of stores. But if I had one rule, I would say don't buy a lot of clothes, just buy one or two clothes and then change it with accessories. For instance, I wear this with a black turtleneck sweater. Well, it looks like another costume. Or I wear it with a print blouse. In other words, the potential of being a woman is very special.
It sounds more and more special all the time. Thank you, Edith Head.
It's a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. We'll see you next week. Good night.